Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we're good.
Anybody zooming in? Okay.
Okay, all right, well, we'll, all right, we'll begin. Ladies and gentlemen, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So with the permission from the Budget Committee folks and the council, I have some opening comments I would like to make. But before I launch into those comments, unless we have a third person, I don't even think you guys can nominate a chair at this point.
I would
So,
recommend we table that until the next.
Yeah,
hearing.
okay.
We'll have more people.
all right, then I will continue on. I'll also hand out some information at this point, just for everybody's knowledge, because I did some research concerning quorums for committees. And in just a moment, I'll read from the charter. So that way, everybody in the room and everybody paying attention through the internet will kind of have the ability for us all to be on the same page. And I'll set the stage by saying, it's my understanding that the Town of Mechanic Falls Budget Committee has 7 slots on the committee. And it's also my understanding that based on the current listing of folks who are going to be participating this year, that that number of 7 is actually a number of 5. We have 1 vacancy, and a person on the budget committee will not be participating at all this year. And so that means we currently have 5 active members of the budget committee. And so the question that I had asked myself, what does that mean to the town in terms of doing business? And so we've handed out a sheet from the Town of Mechanic Falls Charter, and down towards the bottom, it reads section 12. I'll read those 2 paragraphs aloud. Section 12, members of boards and commissions. A, membership in the various boards and commissions of the Town of Mechanic Falls include, but are not limited to, the Budget Committee, the Planning Board, the Board of Appeals, the Recreation Committee, the trustees of the Public Library, and the Mechanic Falls Development Commission. B, a majority of the membership shall be required to constitute a quorum and to act on any and all matters. In the event a quorum is not met by only one vote, and it is determined by the membership in attendance that it is in the best interest of all parties involved, the council assigned as the liaison to the group shall be granted voting privileges for the benefit of reaching a quorum for that particular vote. That council liaison has no voting privileges at any other time. So for me, in deciding how to proceed this evening, I think that we need to come to some agreement as to what constitutes the actual number of members of the budget committee. Are we dealing with slots, or are we dealing with members? As it says here, a majority of the membership.
The problem with that is that it was taken to an attorney, and it was told that it was an illegal act, that an individual, the liaison, could not be a voting member.
Okay, touche. All right, so,
I also remember that,
It's a conflict of interest.
you were the liaison to the planning board, and if the planning board didn't have a quorum, you were not allowed to vote.
To vote. And he said that was the way it was for all boards and commissions and that we needed to modify and rectify that in our charter. And he actually went kind of white when he heard about that.
all right, so we'll set that component of this aside. For the purposes of the budget committee, if you're willing to agree to my thesis that the current membership is actually 5 and not 7, then that means that a quorum of 3 is what you'll need to conduct business. Other than that, it would be a quorum of 4 if you were to do it by the total number of slots. What say you guys?
I'd want to go by the charter and what it specifically says, and it says that there's a slot number of 7, so they're considering 7 would be the members associated with
It
that.
doesn't say anything about slots, and it doesn't say anything about 7. It just says a majority of the membership. And right now, the way that I see this, the budget committee is a membership of 5.
Well, it's been 5 ever since I've been on it.
Well, based on information that I have, there are 7 slots.
Were 2 of those supposed to be alternates? As within the planning board is 5 members and 2 alternate slots.
To the best of my knowledge, the budget committee, as a lot of committees, do not have any specific bylaws that I've been able to find. So I'm just reaching for the best information that I have. And so moving forward in this season, before we do anything, this issue needs to be resolved. Because if you guys agree that as a membership of 5, that it will take 3 of you to cast a vote, to make a vote happen, then that's one thing. If you live in the land that there are 7 slots, then that means you need a quorum of 4 in order to conduct business, especially where Paula and Rose spoke up about the out that's in this paragraph no longer being able to be used.
No, it's illegal.
I would like for the town of Mechanic Falls to be able to conduct business. And so I would like for everybody to be comfortable by stating that the budget committee as a membership of 5 will need 3 people to conduct business. But I need you guys to be comfortable with that, or else you're not going to be able to vote on anything this season unless you have at least 4 members here.
You know, I don't know how you feel. I think it's a question to ask legal.
Oh, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. We're going to agree amongst ourselves.
While
And what
we're
happens-
having,
What happens if that agreement amongst ourselves is not a legal agreement?
Well, the budget committee is an advisory committee. And so there would be no dramatic legal impact either way. What I'm trying to do is help the town of Mechanic Falls conduct business. And so to me, the real acid question, you are a membership right now. You have 5 people on the committee. 5.
Yeah. So in other words, what you're directly saying is that this committee of the budget is not really necessary, and the council could actually take up the budget if they wanted to.
That's not what the charter says.
No.
That's not what I'm saying. It's not what I'm saying at all.
may I ask a quick question, Mr. Hodgkins? While we're having this conversation, could the town clerk or maybe Ms. Previs give a call to the 2 other budget committee members in case they may have forgotten, which has been known to happen in the past?
So there's
To
only
see if we
one,
can get them.
yes, there's only one person that I was hoping was going to be here tonight. And I don't, do you have that ability?
I have her phone number on this meeting list, but Arsha is online here and she's ready to
Okay. All right. I don't know how to do this.
Just not good.
Tarsha, if you can hear us, speak up. Is she able to be heard?
She has to unmute herself.
Just unmute.
I got it. I'm not designed to do this.
The host has to unmute.
Tarsha.
Hey, guys, think I can hear you.
There.
Can you hear me?
Where is it?
No.
I can hear you.
Okay, go ahead, Tasha.
Did you ask me a question?
You had your hand up.
Oh, sorry, I hit the
You
button.
want to say something?
No, I'm just gonna watch tonight. I'll be here. If you have questions, I can answer them, but I won't be able to vote, so.
Did you have a comment, Tasha?
No,
Okay,
Okay.
your hand is raised, or it says it is.
Okay, Rose?
Does this prevent us from doing business tonight?
No, at the very least, this is informational. All that can't happen tonight is the budget committee, until this is resolved, the budget committee will not be able to take an actual vote.
Okay,
We can still go through and do the information and all of that.
okay. And
No,
hear
they
from the
just
fund.
can't take an actual vote.
Okay, and so when they get together,
They got to
when they have a
determine,
quorum, then they can work on.
yeah. But the acid question still exists. If for this season, is the budget committee, does 3 constitute a quorum or does 4? I would hope 3 in
Yeah,
order to make business happen.
Yeah.
And I'm not seeing anything in the charter against it, but I don't want people saying, well, I want everybody to agree at the beginning, one way or the other.
Okay. Are we looking to,
Well, I'm
Get
just looking
council
for guidance
input or
from
from
there,
them?
from the other side over there, from the budget committee members.
are you a group of 5 or a group of 7?
Well, I asked her and posed that question. Are we a membership of 7 with 2 of them being alternates that fill in for slots? Or are we a group of 5?
Well, if you just answered your own question, because you said alternate.
No,
So-
no,
So you're a group of
we're
5.
we're a group of 7. And I don't know if 2 of those people are alternates. That's the way the question was phrased.
Okay,
I don't believe that the budget committee ever had a phone.
It's just acting members.
It's just acting on.
And you would have been here for the longest through all of this, right, Lisa?
Yeah.
So with only 2 of you here, either way, but before the budget committee can vote on anything this season, that question needs to be seriously answered.
Miss Lisa, would you be comfortable with 3 or do you feel you need 4? Based on what you know of our ordinances and things?
Well, Rick and I had this discussion earlier. My feeling is, since there's nothing in the charter that says that the budget committee needs to be 7 members, is that correct?
That's
No, It
correct.
doesn't.
And we currently have 5 active members. To me, a quorum is
3 people. Okay.
Can I
Personally,
play, can I play devil's advocate for that answer?
You can, but at some point, we're going to get going.
I
Go ahead.
understand, but what happens if there's only 3 members on the budget committee? Does that mean it only takes 2 to run the,
That's right.
Yeah.
and if there's 2, you see where this is
Well,
going?
honestly, if it gets to the point, there's only 2 people on the budget committee.
We got
then-
problems.
Then I, as town manager, would take it to the council to think about either trying real hard to recruit
Correct.
people, and we've had it on the website every day for probably the last 5 or 6 weeks anyways. And we have no applicants for this. So if somebody's out there listening and would like an opportunity to join the budget committee, boy, is this a prime opportunity for you.
You know, it only reflects a greater problem that we've had here for all of the years that I've been president on any boards or committees. And that is, it's always the same people. It's never any new people that come in. And at this point in time, those people that have been doing all of this work are now starting to drop away, and the committees and boards are suffering because of it.
Yeah, all right. So I'm going to, with everybody's consent, I'm going to move forward at this point, okay? And hopefully that question gets answered soon. Okay. So the budget committee will not be able to elect a chair. Oh, department heads. So the department heads are here this evening to answer any and all questions that counselors and budget committee members may have. The department heads will not be participating any further in this process other than this evening, unless specifically asked by either the council or the budget committee for them to show. These people have lives and we greatly appreciate their service to the town. And we're happy that they're here this evening to answer your questions. But so if you do have questions this evening for them, this will be your only shot in mass, okay? Another question that needs to be decided this evening, and I think this is an informal way of how you guys wish to proceed. Because this is my first rodeo here, and I've been through a lot of budget seasons with between the town of Paris and obviously now here. I'm the new kid on the block trying to get used to how you guys do things. This evening, you guys are going to have a choice, in my opinion. Do you want to go through the budget line by line, budget by budget? Or do you want to review the department budgets and have an opportunity to ask questions as a general review of the different departments? Does any of the budget committee members have any preference, or counselors? Rose?
Since we have these people here from the departments, I'd like to probably give them an opportunity to present whatever, or answer any questions that we have, or have them ask any concerns so they can.
Right. So you would favor just a general overview with asking questions?
Yes, I would.
Okay. All right. Any other thoughts?
I would like to hear a presentation from each one of the department heads and see how they do, what they've done in the past, what they plan on doing in the future, get a grasp of what's going on so we understand what their budget is all about.
Okay, we can ask them to give a synopsis. So I think that's, instead of going line by line, budget by budget, then that's what we'll do. Okay. Thank you. All right, so I would hope that a lot of you have had an opportunity to read my opening FY23 budget letter. For those that haven't had an opportunity, and for those listening through the internet, I'll take a moment and read that letter aloud. And it goes like this. First, I want to extend a big thank you to Lisa Prevost for her invaluable assistance, underscore, in the creation of this proposed 23 budget. Second, I would also like to thank all of the department heads for working with us and taking the time to comb through this budget line by line. As many of you know, creating a municipal budget is indeed a balancing act of providing necessary town services weighed against the ability of the taxpayer to afford those services. In the end, while no budget is perfect, I hope you'll agree that all involved gave a good faith effort to achieve a livable balance. The FY23 budget journey begins with a few important themes to keep in mind, and they are as follows. Number one, keep good people. The counselors will tell you, they have stated to me in various forms in many ways, one-on-one and collectively. The council believes, and I agree, that we indeed have good staff. Many of them have been here for decades. And on several occasions, the council has given me the message to do everything we can to help retain our employees. Two, Mechanic Falls Police Department. The council has signed a resolution that states they wish to keep and maintain our own police department. And folks, in the 21st century, in this particular market economy, that means that you're going to be paying for that service. Inflation. It's no secret that inflation has risen dramatically over the past year. And as of this writing, which was January 24, it sits at just under 7%. Last week, in the last few days, you probably saw that the latest read on inflation is actually now 7.5%. Hard cost increases. The county tax is up now with revised figures, $23,000. And our workers' comp cost has increased by over $20,000. So there's over $40,000 in costs right there that we can't do anything about except pay the bill. In response to these themes, you will find a concerted effort to retain staff with a proposed 5% pay increase, a recently adjusted pay scale for police staff, and a budget that is soft on most departmental and capital expenditures to help offset these necessary adjustments. In fact, when one looks at the FY23 budget summary sheet and sees the proposed net to be raised bottom line increase year over year, adjusted now at $90,779, with well over $40,000 of that coming in just two hard cost line items, combined with over $38,000 in wage increases, one quickly gets an understanding of this budget. You take those few items and virtually you have pretty much a flat budget. I'll take a moment to touch on capital expenditures. The FY23 proposed capital budget is $284,050, which is $50,500 less than the current FY22 budget. It is a fact that the easiest place to make up savings in a budget usually comes from capital. While this year over year reduction concerns me, I will note that when all is said and done, the town will have over $280,000 in remaining ARPA funds to expend. And so for this year, we can make up some of that cap reduction with potential use of ARPA dollars. On the revenue side, good news. We will be receiving just under $128,000 more in state revenue sharing than the current year. Overall revenues are forecasted to increase by a little better than $109,000. Not good news. This revenue increase will be offset with a $55,000 reduction in applied fund balance for FY23. And this is something that Lisa and I did arm wrestle a little bit on, and the referee, being our new auditor, sided with Lisa. Shows me, doesn't it? No. So the good news for the town of Mechanic Falls is that overall your fund balance currently, if I remember right, is about $1.6 million. And so a good chunk of that is set aside. What the auditors normally want is 90 days set aside for ongoing expenses. So you have 90 days of your emergency reserves, undesignated fund balance, they call it, set aside as an emergency piggy bank. And the rest of those dollars have been put into play as they have been in the current year and in previous years as excess fund balance to be applied to the capital line. And so unfortunately, with the numbers how they came in this year, you actually have $50,000 less in that surplus to apply to capital. And that's why, in part, capital is hurting. And just a reminder to all of us, it is normal and commonplace for some of these presented numbers to change. A couple have already changed. As a part of the budget process, better and updated information can result in a line item number change, as well as further direction from the council or budget committee. We'll do our very best to keep everyone informed and up to date with the latest and greatest information. I look forward to working with you on completing the town of Mechanic Falls FY23 budget. Feel free to reach out to me anytime with questions or concerns you may have. And so what I'll do is have everybody turn the page, and I'll go down through the budget summary, and then we can get into the meat and potatoes with the department heads here in a moment. So we'll start at the top, and I'll go boards and councils. That budget, you will note, is down $3,550. It's a little smoke and mirror because of the next line. The next line, legal services, is $15,000. In the current budget, we have $4,000 in three different department budgets. And so I have reversed that and consolidated the legal fees under one single line item. And the reason why I did that is because when we're deep into the season at this point and trying to figure out the balance, because obviously we don't want to overspend on legal services. So instead of me having to look at 3 separate budgets and do this, it's not slide rule math, but it's just a lot easier if I can look at one number. And so that's why I scoffed the 4,000 back from the boards and council, from the code, and from administration. And so you'll see that as a $15,000 budget. The next municipal complex is up $14,643. Town clerk's elections is up $26.39. Administration is down $13.45, again, because of the 4,000 pullback. Dropping down to utilities, no change. Code enforcement is down $29.11, same reason. Library is up $15.57. Social services welfare is down $4,500 because yours truly is doing GA for now. Assessor is up $1,000. John O'Donnell doesn't go up on the prices often, and it's no shock. It's going to be a common theme. You're going to see contracted services inching up all over the place. I've got more to bring to the council in March. The auditor goes from $7,700 to $8,000, so that's up $300. We have a brand new auditor moving forward, RHR Smith. They are very well known and they do a great job throughout the state of Maine, and a great big thank you to our current auditor as she closes out her last season with us. Contingency remains at $10,000. Debt service is down $3,301. Pensions insurances, big time up. $79,219 increase. And you will note when we get there that those increases basically come from a couple of lines. Obviously, the 38,000 in wage increases at the 5%, and coupled with a couple of other things, including health insurance. The health insurance plan had to change this past season. And because of that and all the math that went along with that, it did give us an increase in health insurance from the current year. Animal control, have it up $1,040. Fire department is up $10,534. Police department, again, as already stated, if you want to keep your police department, you're going to pay for it. And they do a damn good job. And I will tell you that I, for one, since being here, and I get to go home every night, right? You guys live here. You guys should be extremely proud of what Jeff has done in the last several months. Not only did he take this thing on by himself for several months, being the only officer in town, but because of the actions of the council and the actions of Jeff, we are now at a staff of 4 and hopefully soon to be 5 or 6 over the next couple of months or so, hopefully. Next line, Public Works, up $887. And boy, did we squeeze Scott. Transfer station, 8717 is up, and a lot of that has to do with contract services, i.e. water testing, different things like that. County tax, again, it was up 20, but they threw us a recent curveball, and I guess the final figure is going to be $23,076 increase. So you take all of that and you look at that, and quite honestly, there's only really 2 numbers that stick out, and that's going to be the PD and that's going to be pensions and insurance. Everything else is pretty much give and take. Now we drop to the bottom section, general fund. So the general fund overall, the expense line goes up $195,600. Good news, we get to mitigate that with the following. So We will offset that unfortunately with $50,500 less than the current year, but we offset that still with monies from reserves. Total expenditures are up then at $145,100. Applied revenues being up as stated with revenue sharing and such. And then the difference in the applied fund balance of that $55,000. So the net to be raised is $90,779 as it sits here this evening. And so is that an increase? Yes. But given all the themes and factors that I've stated, I think, again, you'd have to find that it's very reasonable, and I hope you do as we go through this budget. And from there, want to just take it budget by budget. Legal, we've already talked about. Municipal complex. You want to jump in here, Lisa? You want me to keep going?
We also had to increase the repair line, because as of right now, we're overextended in our budget for repairs. We had put in contract down just a little bit. Salaries. Again, we're I know why the salary is up. Salary is up because last year we had the janitor's salary in the public works budget. We actually pulled that out of public works and put them back in.
Lisa,
Yes.
on the heating oil, is that enough to cover us? Because it's an unknown factor that. And I know the town,
Well, again, we're estimating, and it we try to go conservative because we don't want to budget a whole bunch of money that we're not going to end up using either. So I think that we try to split the difference here and be somewhat conservative. Well.
Actually, we're hoping it's going to be enough. It's really kind of a guess at this point. We don't know where the price is going to go. I'm basing usage based on what we're using this year. You know, next year it might not be as cold in January. It's an estimate.
and are you feeling comfortable with that?
Yes, as comfortable as I can get at this point.
Okay.
It may come from contingency fund, but there are other ways also. We can adjust spending in other areas if we think that, you know, we're going to be needing more in heating fuel.
Well, all the players are here. I know a couple of years ago, we put in a pellet boiler. And I'd like to know what the circumstances are with that not being used and why. And Scott, they tell me you may know more than anybody.
Run, the guy that worked on it won't go work on it. I'm not gonna work on it, I'm not a boiler guy. I got enough to do, okay?
No, I understand. I'm just looking for,
It's a piece of shit, okay? Wrong with it, right? You wanna go down and get it going, you go right ahead. Nobody will work on it, nobody can get it going. So there it is. Nobody will come work on it.
Is it because they aren't qualified or they don't want, okay, okay.
And quite honestly, I've shared with a few counselors that Honestly, one of the key questions moving forward is going to be how much longer we're going to be in this building. If we're only going to be in this building another couple, 2, 3, 4 years or whatever, it's not worth chasing. It's not worth chasing. It's worth just dealing with what we got to deal with. Because there's no sense getting that boiler all fixed up just in time to say bye-bye. So the better dollar is just to keep doing what we're doing right now.
I was just looking for the history over the last couple of years as to why it wasn't being used.
It never heated right, it didn't heat this building the way it should. It heated over there more than it heated over here. Everybody over here was cold all the time. We just shut the hose off. Just didn't work right from the beginning.
So that raises a question of, we have this complete system here. Maybe it's time for us to part ways with that complete system and sell it
What
off.
you gonna do with it?
Maybe. Well, again, I'm going to wait for direction from the council concerning this building. And that's a big conversation coming later in 2022, I hope. But for this conversation this evening, it is what it is. Any other questions on municipal?
Yes, besides heating oil, another factor that as far as costs going up, it seems to be Central Maine Power this year has major rate increases, which I know affected residents, and I'm sure municipalities are affected too. I noticed in a recent article that Poland added monies to their budget to offset what they expect to be higher electrical costs. Is the town's budget reflecting of that, or where are we with this situation?
So two items. Number one is that when I take a look at the current expense line for that, and give me a moment just to get there, because I knew that this question was going to come up. So I looked at it. Give me utilities. Okay, currently in this budget, we should be, again, if you were just running a straight budget, equal spending 52 weeks a year, we would be at a prorated rate right now of 64% of the budget spent. In that particular line item for utilities, we're at 58.37%. So we're below budget what we currently have budgeted. Coupled with, just as I was coming on board here, the town entered into agreements with several of our CMP accounts, not all of them, but some of the very major accounts, and we locked in pricing, which has proven to be very fantastic, right? Given these recent rate increases. We do have a handful of accounts, the smaller stuff, I believe, if memory serves correct, which is still at the open rate, if you will. And it was going to be our goal of revisiting that question in the spring, because as you're going into winter, prices tend to creep up with these contracts. And so we were going to ride out the rest of the summer, and now we got hit over the head. So I'm comfortable that with the money that we've budgeted, given the fact that we're locked in on certain contracts and the fact that we're currently under budget, we should at least be in the ballpark. I'm not going to look in the eye and tell you that we're not going to be overspent by the end of the next fiscal year, but I'm comfortable in saying it, even if we are overspent, it's not going to be by a dramatic amount. And one other item as we go through this, which goes to Lou's question to some degree, I think it was Lou. So with these budgets, remember, the town passes them as lump sum budgeting, which means, again, that as long as we'll take Public Works, as long as Public Works is under their voter approved number, line items are going to be over budget, line items are going to be under budget within that budget. So as long as the overall expenditure does not exceed what the voter approved, then we're okay. And we do have, as Lisa stated, we have mechanisms in place that for those situations based on the charter that we can do for offsetting overspending of a budget by 10% or less. So somebody get out their crystal ball, but I think we're okay on that particular line item. Okay.
How long is the contract that we're signed?
Great question. I honestly don't remember. I think we locked him in, I think, for 2 or 3 years. 2 years is what's ringing in my head, but I may be wrong. But it's so they have some legs to them.
Is this again a cooperative group that's filed with?
So, and again, it was just one of the first stories, one of the storylines I was picking up as I was climbing aboard. And Mitch had started the process and I kind of wrapped it up. Yeah, I mean, I have the contracts in my office and all of that, but the good news is that the town, again, it was a brilliant move to make because it is saving the town money. Paula?
Will our
I hope so. So in order to budget, again, everything in chronology, when we're sitting down many moons ago, working on the budget, I knew that I was hoping that this was going to, because it's a great question. I was hoping it was going to impact the overall budget, but I decided to play it conservative and not have any cost savings factored in to the streetlight equation until the project is all done and we get it in the rear view instead of in the front view. And I just think it's better, it's more conservative thinking that way, right? But yes, I do. And again, it should easily save the town $17,000 a year or so. And you guys next month will figure out how we're going to pay for it. Any other municipal complex questions? Town clerk elections. Questions for our newly minted town clerk? Yeah. It's a good question. Again, we're operating off of very fresh information. I haven't revisited that. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts, Lisa?
I do know that most of our trainings right now are being conducted online. So the travel part is less expensive because we're able to do a lot of it right from our own desk. I think we're going to be okay. Again, if this is an estimate, and at the time we put this together, we didn't realize that we were going to be needing another new person in the office. We're hoping.
So I believe that
Got a question online. Okay. Is that Tarsha?
Yes, it is me. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. I can't hear everybody. Like when Paula speaks, I can't hear her. And then I've been trying to raise my hand, but I couldn't quite figure it out, but it looked like it was raised, but it wasn't on my end. So I was trying to get your attention, but I didn't know another way.
Okay. All right. So you're all set?
I am,
I'll
but
try
I
to-
just, yeah, if people could just make sure they speak into the microphone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions concerning the town clerk budget?
Is the cost of hiring a replacement for Lori figured in this budget?
No.
No.
It will come from the current budget.
Okay,
Yeah. And so I have it's either 8 or 9 interviews lined up already.
okay.
And so no promises. Lisa and I feel pretty good on it. At least one of them. I feel pretty good on 2 or 3 others she doesn't know about. And so we'll see where we come out.
Okay,
You know, all we're gonna try to do is hire the best person. And somebody, and you've all heard me say this, so I'm not saying it about any particular person or people, but I do try to hire people that I think will stick. And I think that's important for any employer. And so we'll see. We'll see where this goes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, moving on. Administration. Any questions concerning administration? I'll do a silent, like 15 to 20-second count. And if I don't hear anything, then we'll move on.
All of the wage increases that the council came to a conclusion needed to be done are included in these figures, correct?
Yeah, so the wage increases, the 5% bump is included in the pensions and insurance budget. The only wage increase that's in this budget is mine per contract,
Okay.
okay? Any other questions? All right. Utilities. Any questions for Lisa? Notice how I did that?
How long will we be? How long will we be indebted to CMP on repairs and such before we have the transition? Do you have a clue? So we be running dual?
So, unless you want to answer this question.
Are you looking at specifically the repairs in this line?
Correct.
I believe these repairs are strictly due, we don't repair the street lights
Yeah.
right now. What we're repairing are the stop lights, like the one in the center of town.
Okay.
So that's what this is.
That's
really
what that
for.
is. Okay.
Any other questions? All right, moving on to code enforcement. Somebody better ask Alan a question.
Well, I can ask Alan a question. I just, probably it's not budget oriented, but I guess I'm wondering, do we have lots of building permits and lots of revenue that you're generating for us for next year's tax base?
We did. We had a lot last year, for certain. It has slowed down considerably, but absolutely had millions of dollars.
Okay, and they probably weren't in complete, they weren't in complete form when
No,
April 1st rolled
No.
around.
No.
So we get some,
there'll be a lot of assessing going on.
okay.
When do the solar projects get their updating bills and notices?
N- Not until they start.
I
They
think
won't get anything until they begin.
There's a big hold up in the state
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, yep. So just CMP has got a backlog. And just regular permitting, the one we just did is going to be waiting for their permitting.
I was
to
thinking
come
about the first one we did over a year ago.
in. No, but no. Nope, I don't know anything yet about that. Anything else?
No, that was
No.
it, Alan.
Good.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Library. Any questions on any of the line items for Nancy?
Would Nancy like to give us a little overview as to what's going on?
The only thing, I mean, I've gone up on new book purchases only because of the cost of the books and materials for all of them. The average price of the book, retail price is about $30 a book now for a hardcover. I find if I buy paperbacks, they're not gonna last. And if I buy 2 or 3 of them, it lasts the same amount of But one of the things that I am doing in the process for this next year, I changed my program, thinking that I could integrate it with the Maine State Library catalog system. And I went up.
I changed my program. I got a grant, an ARPA grant, and changed the program. It was an additional $500 as part of the grant, and thought I would be all set. They had told me that the Maine State Library would be able to add our catalog to the Maine State Library catalog and integrate it that way. The problem was they tried to do it and couldn't. So I'm going to have to change my program again, but that's okay. Because what's going to happen in the future is my program, my catalog will go onto the Maine State Library system, and people from all over the state will be able to request books that are in our catalog. I will then ship them out interlibrary loan. Right now, I only have 1 day a week. I may have to increase depending upon what happens. But the bonus is by summer, they've got their fingers crossed that people will be able to take our library cards, go to a library, any library in the state. There will probably be 150 libraries, and check out a book from there. And when they come back to town, they can return it to Mechanic Falls, and I will send it back to the lending library. They don't have to go back again.
Oh, that's
So if
awesome.
if you're looking at the catalog for the Maine State Library System and you see a book that you want, you can go directly to that catalog. This is by summertime, and request it. It will be sent directly to me, and I'll just call you. And you can come in and pick it up here. If you're traveling through the state and you decide, I don't have a book to read, or I want to go into that library, and you see a book that you really would like to read, you can use your Mechanic Falls library card, which is free to anyone from the town,
Yeah.
to check out that book. They'll have the same coding system. They'll be able to check it out through Mechanic Falls. And then when you're done with it, return it to me.
Now I have a question.
Sure.
The programming, we were told it was going to work and it didn't. Is there any way to make them take it back and get our money back?
No, but that's okay. Because I paid for it with the ARPA grant.
Okay.
So it didn't cost us any. I actually saved money because I stopped my other program that I was running. So, you know, it actually saved a little bit of money, but I paid for it with the ARPA grant. And so I have it until October, which is not a bad thing. It means that I don't have to adjust everything at once.
Okay.
You know, it's a 1-year contract with this company, and it wasn't that expensive. The new one is, they're telling me it might be up to $1,000 for the year, but it is not going to be like Lewiston Auburn, who pay $13,000 a year.
Okay. And that
For
was
their
going to be my
program.
next question.
Yeah.
We can't afford Lewis.
No. But I do feel as if it is going to expand the capabilities of anyone who has a Mechanic Falls library card.
That's awesome.
And so I feel like it's well worth, and it might be an additional $125 to add one more delivery day on the van, which again, it's $125 for the year. And it will give me more capabilities of sending stuff
in and
back and
out.
forth.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, and all it costs is $125.
That's not bad for a year.
No, at this point, I don't pay anything. They give me one free day. So I'm not having to pay anything on my budget. So if nobody else has any other questions,
Thank you.
Nancy,
well, yes,
just to clarify, under
Sure,
salaries,
sure.
Salaries, there was a change of $1,057.
That was part of my
That was actually last year's
last year
increase.
increase. Yep. Yep.
So the money stays the same this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
The library,
It's a 5%.
She's going to get the 5%
5%
increase, but the
increase,
5% is under
Yeah.
the P and I budget.
All right, thank you.
okay, because that was going to be my question. Wait a minute, why did the library get left out?
I didn't. No, so any other questions from me? Feel free to stop in, update your cards, because I did have to update to the new one. So if you have a card that you haven't updated, and the other thing is, I mean, I still have the interlibrary loan program, and I also have the the downloadable books through the state that we pay for. And if you don't update your card, when they change to the new system, you won't be able to use your card.
Ooh, I
They'll-
gotta get in
they'll-
and see you.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure that everybody has a I want to make sure I have everybody's current information. That's the whole thing. So other than that, I don't think there's anything else going on, except I did get a lot more new books today. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Hey, Nancy, you want to shut that off? Want
So it
to push the
doesn't,
button?
so it doesn't echo?
Okay. Thank you. All right, next budget is social services welfare. I think that's already been stated.
So the decrease is because you had that it's on your shoulders and we're not having to pay somebody to do it.
Yes.
Basically.
Do you hear how I'm saying?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, you and I have had a conversation, I know.
All right, the next one is the assessor, and I think we touched on that earlier for the first time in a few years.
A quick question about that, Miss Lisa. Do we have like a 5-year contract or something, or is it by year with the new assessor?
The assessor isn't new. We're still with O'Donnell like we have been. The auditor is new. I believe we're year to year with the assessor.
Okay, ooh, alrighty, alrighty.
We have a new 3-year contract with the auditor because we can't sign for more than 3 years.
Okay. And with the assessing budget, is that inclusive of the reassessment that we have to do?
No, the reassessment is all being, and we've been setting aside money. If you've been here for a while, you know, we've been setting aside money for the reval. That's all under the CIP budget.
Okay.
All right, moving on, auditor, just touched on. I think we'll move on from there. Contingency, self-explanatory. Debt service, Lisa?
Debt service is just to pay for the things that we've taken loans out on in the past. We're still working on paying down the office renovation from when we renovated this building, but we're very close to the end. The rural development is the bond payment on 22 Pleasant Street. Road paving, we took out a bond last year, so this one will be the second payment on the road bond for the paving that was done last year. And we have an excavator that several years ago we got for the Public Works Department, and we were making lease payments on that. This went down a little bit because the bond payment on the town office renovation bond goes down a little bit every year.
Any questions? All right. Now the big kahuna. Lisa, you're on a roll.
Yeah, me again. Okay, so this budget includes your health insurance, life insurance. It includes the funding for the HRA. Workers' comp is in here. We also have the retirements matches, the match for Social Security. And again, as we've mentioned already a couple times tonight, we put the raises for the departments, the stuff that isn't contracted in this budget. Operating supplies is basically, we have a deductible reserve for in case we have to make a claim and have to meet the deductible. The $500 is we have a safety committee, and we have the safety committee in order to try and keep our workers' comp costs down. So that $500 is for supplies for the annual training for the safety committee. And under contracted services, that is the property and casualty insurance. So those are, as far as comp and the property and casualty and the health insurance, well, they kind of are what they are. We do shop the health insurance every year and try to find the best deal.
Any questions? Okay,
I
moving on.
will make one little note here that when we are budgeting this budget, as well as the police department budget, we had to estimate and make assumptions about future people who aren't currently employed. So we budgeted worst case scenario. So there is a possibility that these numbers won't come in at full budget because I assumed that we would be hiring officers and that they would all need family plan insurance. That may not be the case when we finish hiring them. And we do the same with other turnovers in the office and stuff. So there are some things, like I said, we made assumptions on and we made the worst case scenario.
The next budget, animal control. It's my understanding that Robert does, quite frankly, an amazing job. All of these communities throughout Western Central Maine are going to miss the day that Robert Larrabee is no longer doing his business. And so we're giving him a pay bump as a part of this budget. I don't even think, you said it's just been a lot of years since he's had a pay bump.
I do not remember the last time Robert got a raise.
And she's been here for a while. Any questions? All right, going to turn it over to John. Want to give a synopsis of fire rescue and then answer these fine folks' questions?
Just going through our budget, the major increases, if any, would just be in the salaries. We're luckily getting some newer members. Almost daily, it seems like we're getting, I think I had picked up an application the other day in the mailbox, so that's good. We're getting more rescue members also. So those are things that we need to keep in mind with that. Operating supplies, honestly, most of that is on my side for the rescue side. The box of a pair of gloves is outstanding now. And then the supplies I need to have now is increased. We are now licensed to put on CPAP at the basic level. We've never been able to do that. So I had to buy all new CPAP devices to have on our truck so we can offer that as a life-saving option. We also have to have HEPA filters on all of our BVMs. We also have to have gowns and masks and N95 masks and shields for our face and so on and so forth. So I hope that increase covers all of it, but we'll see as prices come. They change daily when it comes to rescue supplies.
For Lisa, is the dispatch, the EMA inclusive in this budget? And is that why there's zero on the general budget summary?
Yes, a few years ago, actually when Zach was here, we actually eliminated the dispatching budget and we dispersed those costs to the fire rescue budget and the police budget. So you'll find a line in the police budget as well that has to do with dispatching.
John, how many volunteers do you have, basically?
We are around 20 active members. We are much less than that, but we have around 20 on the books. And again, hopefully that'll change as active because, like I said, I think we've had 4 or 5 new people in the last 4 or 5 months. And so that's every day it changes, life happens. As a volunteer service, somebody moves and then we lose them. They change a job. We don't have them during the day anymore when we used to. Things like that.
Thank you, John. Also, thank you for the tour that we had. That was
no
very
problem.
helpful.
Not a problem. Any other questions?
You have deputy chief stipend too? I didn't know we had two of them.
We do, myself, I'm a deputy chief, and then Ben Limerick is the other deputy chief. Prior to him, it was Tom Doherty had that position. Yep. No, I was actually, Fred was one, I was two, Tom was three. So I took Wade Boston's position. Or Matt did, yeah, somewhere in there. Matt and so on and so forth. So, yep. We don't have an assistant chief. We just have two deputies. Questions?
John, if nobody else, I want to express to you and to the department just how fantastic a job you do for our community and how well you serve us and make us safe within this community. It makes living here a lot easier.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
I should note that Fred is joining us on through the magic of internet. And Fred, I don't know, do you have anything you want to say? Or are you all set?
Almost said, I just, like John said, we had some new people came on, young, energetic, which is very nice to see. Three of them want to sign up for an EMT course. It's going to tighten the budget on the training this year, but we have to get the names in now because the courses fill fast. And we're making sure they're serious because EMT courses are not as easy as they used to be. They never were easy. They're just a lot more to them today. But like he said, like he mentioned, we have some young, energetic, and our payroll has gone up a little bit because they go to calls. And that's what we want to see to help people out. And when I do payroll, I go, holy cow, it's kind of nice to see names on it than one or two names. And I appreciate the town supporting us all we can, and we try to be there for you.
Question about their fuel budget. With the skyrocketing amount of fuel, are you comfortable with what you budgeted? John?
I am comfortable with what they budget because I see
Okay.
how much they expend, and generally their budget for fuel is way under.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Fred. Thank you, John. Unless there's any more questions, we'll move on. All right, Police Department, Chief?
Question?
It's not going to be that easy.
Thank you.
I guess, Jeff, could you just kind of give us an overall since the last time we've seen you? Because you got some new, what's the staff like, and is
So,
everybody on board? And when are they going to be on board?
as Vic mentioned earlier, we're up to 4 people now. One presently, well, I have Sergeant that I hired, so he and I presently are the only 2 people working the road. Androscoggin Sheriff's Department is still very kindly covering for us at night. I have one person in the academy. I think he's week 4 of his 18-week. I like to tell him vacation. I know it's no vacation up there, but we want to keep them positive. And then I've just hired another guy who, the old days, it was you'd go to 2 weeks of school for what they'd call reserve qualifications, and you get what they call a green pin, means you can work as a reserve officer or up to 1 year before going through the full-time academy with that green pin. Nowadays, it's phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Phase 1 is online. Phase 2 is hands-on at a training location. And phase 3 is actually done here, kind of an FTO training at the department. And my 4th hire, the newest guy on, is in his 2nd week of phase 2 in Augusta. That's where the class is being held. We interviewed one subject, and we have another one we interviewed last week, and we're hoping to get some of the background done on that last interviewee and possibly a conditional offer there. The 5th subject that I had interviewed, I'm still at the point of trying to make a decision on that. So that isn't finalized yet. I really can't speculate one way or the other where that's going to go.
I will have to say, I have seen the other officer actively working.
Yes, yes. Sergeant Schroeder has been pretty active out and
Yeah,
about.
I've been walking and I've been noticing.
He's trying to take over. I was always told when I started out here years ago that people in town used to refer to me as the nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And I think he's trying to take that title away from me.
Yeah, I think so.
And he's found some unique spots that the rest of you have
Yes.
missed in the
Yes,
past.
everybody likes to find their own. It kind of makes him happy to find certain spots, and he has said that he has found certain spots, and he's disappointed with wintertime because it's taken away a couple of spots with snow banking.
Good job.
Thank you. You said
Yeah.
I wasn't getting off easy. I'm assuming you got a question.
Oh, I could have several, but I'll be. With a full staff, what service does the community get?
Okay, well, fully staffed, we're basically a full staff is 6 full-time officers. You get 24 hours, 7 days a week coverage. And there's an overlap in the day with myself and also with the sergeant when we're fully staffed. So we have more supervisory capability into the evening hours than we do with just 5 people. It also allows you to send people on vacation and away to school, where a lot of the times, if you're 5 or even you're down a guy, you're 4, you can't send anybody away to anything because you can't cover 24/7. Once that person either gets sick and is out, goes on vacation, or is away at a training. So the 6 people is really what you need to have a decent working department this day and age. Year or 2 ago, I was going back to old stuff, and I want to say back in the 70s, I'm not sure if it was the town council or the department had asked the Maine Chiefs of Police Association to basically do an overview of the department and make recommendations. And back then they recommended it be a 6-man department. So we're kind of where we were told we should be back in the 70s.
A little late on that.
Yes, yes. Well, I've been trying.
So you're saying you could possibly, the police department could possibly cover 24/7 with a 5-person group?
You can do it, but it's very difficult, extremely difficult. And the problem you have is you get people on patrol that way. You have everybody to do patrol. But this day and age, with the way things are, if you can imagine sexual assault investigation, and you're trying to interview a victim, and your radio keeps going off with other emergency calls, and you have to keep interrupting that interview to go on a call. It's just no way to do business. This way, you get those kind of a cases, that person, basically somebody covers the shift, or at least a portion of the shift while that person's doing their investigation, so that those kind of things don't happen.
There's also court days.
Yeah, there's a whole host of things that people never see.
Yes, I remember well the state transferring all of the legal duties to the police officers to show up.
Yeah, we do. All of our traffic stuff is all handled by the officers of the department now.
That was a wonderful tax increase by our government. Nobody really saw it.
But as far as my budget goes, really the big increase is the salaries, the adjustment that the council made so that we could try and get some fresh blood in here. When the other people left, get new hires on, and we were at the bottom of the pay scale. As much as everybody across the state is struggling, you aren't going to get anybody when you're at the bottom of the pay scale. So they made an adjustment, and it's under this current year budget. So that part of that salary increase is reflected in this number. So that's the biggest increase in here. Everything else, for the most part, that's an increase, is like subscriptions to things that went up. So my number went up. The dispatching and the PSAP fees, that went up. So that line went up. There's very hardly anything in here that I elevated that I wasn't dictated that I needed to elevate it because of that.
Not to interrupt you, but the officers are getting all the safety gear they need.
Yes. Oh, yes. We can get everything when we can get it. The new sergeant's vest has been on order since the day I hired him, and they still can't give me a time of when it might even be completed in here.
Do you think maybe it's in Iraq? Or
I don't know where it
Afghanistan?
is. I don't know where it is. But no, we had some old vests that luckily guys were shaped and sized close enough that he's getting by. It's old, but it's still within the basically the shelf life of being able to use it. Vests are, they say are good for 5 years. So the vest is within that 5-year window, but it's not, most vests need to be fitted to the
Custom
person.
fit.
The minute you sit down in a cruiser, if it's not fitted right, it pinches and it will bunch up and it's just not good. It's, you need to have the thing that's fitted to you properly, but he's getting by until his new one comes in.
How many more years do we have on our TASER plan?
It was a 5-year plan. I believe this budget we're talking about now will be the second of the last year. I think it'll be year 4.
Okay. Have you done any contemplating where to go next?
I haven't.
Or
I'm
renewing?
assuming I'll probably stick with them.
Just renew.
They're kind of the number one going thing, and we've had no problems with their equipment. So
Okay.
if it works, I'm going to stick with it.
Okay.
And we're also just, there's nothing reflected in here because of everything taking so long to order. Probably by time we're able to get anything, we'll almost be working into a new budget, but the new sergeant's looking into upgrading our cruiser cameras and getting body cameras for everybody. There's a lot of grants out for that stuff because of recent happenings in the world the last couple of years. So we're hoping we can get that fully funded or mostly fully funded.
Yeah, I'm glad that you're getting more people on board, but as the staff is not yet concrete, how do you have in here for overtime would be sufficient to cover in case not everyone?
That's an impossible number to try to figure out right now. So I'm going with what we've got. The one thing that helps is if I don't have the staffing, then that salary line for that staff member isn't being used. So that helps to offset a big portion of the overtime if I'm having to pay overtime to somebody else. As in what happened when everybody left, I'm salary. So there's a lot of that the town did make an adjustment with comp time I built up, but a lot of that gets written off as way to be the salary guy. So, but yeah, usually it helps when you don't have staff members, their salary line isn't being used. So that helps with the overtime.
At this point,
Yeah, I just sit there and try and overanalyze it and get it down. No, I'm happy with this for now. If it needs to be adjusted, I'll adjust it when I've got some true numbers to go by, not what we've been under for the last 6 months.
Thanks for you holding up the fort.
Welcome. Everybody good? Thank you.
All right, moving on. And before Scott gets up to give his synopsis and we go through the budget, it has been mentioned at council meetings time and time again, but again, Scott and his crew do a fantastic job based on what I see. I come tooling through town in the morning, boy, they're always out there doing something, so kudos to Scott and the boys for everything that they do.
We've been very blessed in this town with some remarkable employees, and we need to be very thankful and show our appreciation more.
Scott, you want to stand up and do your thing?
Want to know? We do the same thing every year. Okay?
Scott, what do you need?
What do I need? My men need more money. Okay? They have to have a CDL license. They have to take drug tests. All right? They work on the equipment. We just spent $4,000 on parts and they fixed everything themselves. We didn't take it out anywhere. Okay? My guys are dedicated. Okay? And they're one of the most underpaid groups around this area. Okay? I want to put in a plug for my guys. Okay? I don't care about me. All right? I'm getting to that point where I'm going to be flying the friendly skies pretty soon. So, but my guys work hard. Okay? We all work hard. We're proud of this town. And we try to take care of things and we take care of a lot of stuff. And we work hard.
They were a part of the 5% pay raise we did, correct?
I appreciate that. I
That
really
is
do.
correct.
They're just starting to get up where they belong. Okay? But luckily they're dedicated. They're not going to go anywhere. That's the good thing about those 3 guys. Oh, they're hard workers. And I appreciate them very much. And I appreciate all the kind words. But we know what we have to do every day. And we try to do it every day and take care of people. And and just look out for the town.
The equipment's going okay, not too many breakdowns?
We had 4 last week. Like I said, we spent around $4,000. Loader lost a transmission cooler made out of aluminum, $1,600. Skeeter's wing hit a stump. Broke a bracket on the wing, $1,060. Then this front trip was, we started taking it apart and there was $560 worth of parts there. It was worn out. The wing was tripping itself easily. Now it's standing right straight up and it's where it should be. But everything, like everybody else has said, has gone right through the roof.
Yeah.
I mean, stuff is unbelievably costly if you can get it.
Right.
Oh,
And I'm assuming that it's, this last storm in particular was rather difficult to
Any-
move.
Any storm you get, when you get snow and then rain and then ice, it's terrible. It costs you 3 times what a snowstorm would. I mean, those icy storms are the worst you can get. They cost you 3 times the money. A regular snowstorm, you go out and plow it, sand it, you go home, salt it the next day, done. So,
I know that John does my route.
yes, he does. Yeah.
He does a very good
They,
job.
they know their routes very well.
And
We
when-
all have a route.
Yeah.
I take care of all the town properties, the depot square, the square, all the parking stalls. My guys, one guy does out of town, one guy does in town. John does the little side streets.
Was is it the skid steer that does the sidewalk plowing?
Yes,
Was that down?
yes, it was.
Because I thought that,
Right in front of the pizzeria the other day.
okay.
It ripped, there's a wire that runs this, it turns the chute, you
Uh-huh.
push a button and the chute turns and it tilts it up. Well, it got caught under the tire and ripped it right, the plug right out. So all the wires are dangling there. We got 6 wires and don't know where they go. The boys troubleshooted it. Then we worked on it about 3 hours. It's back together running. We didn't have to go anywhere. We didn't buy any parts.
Well,
So
they do a very good
they're
job.
very ingenious.
Yes,
They do a
it.
very
They
good
did a
job.
very good job on the sidewalks because I see they sand.
Yeah,
So
we
they-
sanded them Monday morning.
And I also noticed the fact that when people plow driveways, they block off.
Oh,
the,
yeah. They don't care
the
about the
walkway.
sidewalk. The state doesn't either.
Oh,
The state keeps filling them in, so we
Oh,
can
wow.
continuously going over them.
well, I walk the roads and I know you guys are doing a good job.
But Ben that works for the water department, or has worked for the water department, he's been doing a lot of the snow blowing for us, but Andy goes out, I go out, we all go out once in a while, so we try to take care of them the best we can.
You guys are aware of it. They also take care of our police cruisers.
We change oil in them
Yeah.
or help them with a tire or whatever. I mean, we do what we can.
Yeah.
We do it all if we can, but we try.
Well, you do a good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Scott, how's the replacement schedule on your equipment?
The loader, the bids are coming, we're getting a new loader. The loader is 10 years old. It's got 6,200 and something hours on it. But like I said, it's up there where we just lost a transmission cooler, $1,600. It's getting to that point where you're gonna get the most money for it now for trade-in. So we try to rotate every 10 years. That's something that Dana started way back. Every 10 years, we rotate our equipment. And it's paid off for us in the long run.
Gotten any bids yet?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I think we're gonna get one from Cat, Volvo, and John Deere.
Is it going to be available?
2 of them I know are available, so
Okay. Okay.
we'll see what happens.
What about the skid steer?
The skid steer was brand new last year. It's a Cat. Yep. And the Skeeter's, one of our biggest investments was a Wheeler, and that's coming up this year too. But the trucks right now are 2 to 3 years out. So we're gonna try and get the bid in and get in line. So we'll be there when they come around. The COVID has screwed everything up, so trucks are hard to come by. So, but that truck's 10 years old and we just put $1,500 in the wing, just the stuff wears out, it's hard on it. It's all steel. It just, stuff wears out.
Well, we're very fortunate to have people that have the ability not only to do the problem work and clear the roads, but also to maintain and fix the
So there's some stuff we can't though, like the emissions now. All these new vehicles run on, they have a DEF. It goes in, it's another liquid that goes in that causes that truck's a 2012. And that's when they first came out with that emission stuff. We've had a lot of problems with it. Take it up there, $1,000, $1,500 every time we take it up there. Those places charge a lot of money, it sucks, but that's the way it is. That's the way trucks are nowadays. So anything that runs on diesel big trucks is difficult.
Is there any type of diagnostic equipment that you might be able to get that might be able to
You gotta
save
be,
you?
you have to be trained in that
Okay.
stuff and just, it's not worth it. We got enough problems without dealing with that. Okay.
You got enough money in your diesel account? What's the price of diesel? Is that going
We
up?
should be fine.
Should be fine?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
We always come, last year I gave you money back at the end of the year. I don't know how we do it, but we did it. But I try not to spend it all, but it's not easy sometimes.
I know.
Anything else? You're welcome.
And so that loader bid will be coming to you guys in March. All right, next up on the hit parade, Mr. Norm.
I got a good group of people. Everyone's treated good that comes in the transfer station. We promote recycling. We help everyone with different recycling, sorting it out. We have elderly that come in that needs help, maybe taking the trash right out of the trunk for them. We do that too. I'll think of 100 things I could have said when I go home. So I'm new at this. The first time being a manager. I'm trying very hard. I care about it. I want to keep it good up there. I believe that it's stayed as good as it always has so far, and hope that it could get better.
The transfer station and public works, we do a lot for these guys up there, but I want to tell you, he took over what Scott got done. Norm, he had second thoughts about it. We took over. He's done a wonderful job. Okay, kudos to him. Okay, and his crew. He does an excellent job, and I think he deserves a high five for what he's done. So.
Thank you, Scott.
Always neat and tidy. Is there anything else you could use up there?
I put in for a wish list thing like everyone else did, and we'll just see how it goes.
You can feel free to share the wish list thing if you want.
I mentioned maybe hot top and the main yard part. And a type of can that we wouldn't have to handle the furniture. That a vehicle could just back up and dump it off into the bin. As it is now, we manhandle it all to put it straight into a bin. So we handle it pretty well. And of course, you're dealing with whatever's on that furniture. The way it is now.
So you're saying you could use up another drive-up bin where they actually just drop stuff into?
Yeah, they could back up and it would go into an open top. Into a bin. I've seen other transfers with that, but you should have a machine probably to crush it up and settle it in good. So the more you can put in it, the more reasonable, less hauls you'd have to do. So
Are you situated that you can use? You have space for that bin?
we have spaces. Yeah, it's quite a lot of room up there. It'd have to be looked at by other people, especially with Public Works, to set up something like that.
It was a 5-year contract.
Yes, it
and
was.
I think we're year 2 or 3 into it. It's got some legs. Yep.
It's been going on economically. I was wondering.
Yeah, and actually, good segue. So Norm, what I'd like for you to do, because I met with Patrick Corcoran this morning. And I'm going to be bringing to the council, once he sends it to me, a contract. Right now, Corcoran has been taking away our stuff and without a contract, just being good guys. And they give us really great pricing. And Norm has a very good relationship with them. And Patrick was telling me today, and I'd like for you to share with the counselors and the budget committee members, you know, some of the extra stuff that Corcoran does for us. It's my understanding, like they give us let us use some bins, or they let us use some equipment. You want to touch on that for a moment?
We are using one of the extra bins that they have. They're just letting us use it. We're using it for like bulky, big plastic. Because we was having trouble, we was putting stuff in the hopper that weren't working out. It was too big for them on the other end, and they weren't happy with it. So, like kids, little plastic cars that they get on and drive around, something like that, they don't want us to throw it in the hopper. It's a lot to ask out of it for a trash hopper.
Yeah.
So we're using one of their bins to offset it. So we put the bigger plastics and swimming pool, big plastics into that other hopper, and they're letting us use it.
And the reason why I bring it up, because when I bring this to you in March, so we're currently paying $88, $89 a haul. And when I met with him today, we're working on a 3-year contract I'm going to bring to you. He was talking about, obviously he wanted a price increase. He wanted to go up to $120 a pull. And but what we agreed on, and like I said, I'll bring it to you in March, $95 for this coming year and $100 for years 2 and 3. And so we'll lock in at a 3-year contract. Yeah, it's reflected. That was one of the changes that we made.
Okay,
So you have the latest and greatest.
okay.
And I just, as a part of this whole thing, I just wanted, you know, the value added is really important. You know, we're working with a company that we've been working with for how many years?
As long as they was there before I started there.
Yeah. And
And
so,
they store their stuff, a lot of their cans there, I believe, too.
Well, the reason I asked that is in the extra sheets that I was given, they say $80 a ton. It doesn't say $90 a ton.
Oh,
It's-
mistake.
I'm sorry, my mistake. I went ahead and I believe I changed the total number should say 76,000 at 7,600.
yeah, my sheets,
8165.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, mine
I did.
doesn't.
I did fix it.
Talking. Full is when they take the can and deliver it.
hey, I'm learning too, I guess. Ain't that right, Norm?
Yeah,
You know, it's not for a ton
no,
of debris.
that's for the trucking.
Right. And whatever the weight is what.
On the
Pay-
other end, and we'll pay for the weight.
And will the tonnage stay the same?
That's fluctuates. There's no way of really telling.
It
Depends
does on
on
this one. It didn't on this one.
what people are
Okay,
cleaning
thank
out.
you.
Cost at the recycling center is so much a ton, right?
As far as the recycling goes, what I've learned so far is everything we recycle over there has been free. The trucking, I don't believe we pay for the trucking for the recycling. So the more we can recycle, the more we save. And what we're paying for is what's going in that trash bin.
Are we accepting more than just number 2 plastic at this point?
Oh, sorry.
There was a time we weren't accepting any plastic.
We did start that up.
And is
Is
it
they-
just number two, or are we
Yes.
taking more than number two?
No,
Still just number two?
yeah, they had a market for that, so we got right on board with it.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Thank you. Noel.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right, we move on to capital. And before we go down through the list of capital, I'll give you kind of a moment of big picture thinking. So I think that in terms of how the town conducts its budgeting, everything is the way that it should be. The only concern I have moving forward is we seem to have a history of using these surplus dollars to fund the capital budget. And a lot of communities with their surplus dollars do spend extra money on capital. But I have a concern for the taxpayer moving forward. Right now, based on the current budget, only, I think if I remember right, like 89,000 and change was put to the taxpayer of the entire capital budget. And the remainder, the great balance came from using surplus dollars, which is great when you have surplus dollars. And my fear for the town would be what would the town do if some year after the audit, we would have learned that there wasn't any great surplus dollars? Then the capital budget would either have to shrink greatly, or it would be put onto the taxpayer all at once. And over my counsel to the council and to the budget committee and to the citizens of Mechanic Falls would be over these next few years to put a little bit more onto the taxpayer each year of from the capital budget. And in those years where we have good surpluses, we take those monies, still apply them to the capital budget, but for the huge items, like if Fred's still listening, we got a ladder truck conversation that we're having. A ladder truck's $1 million. We don't have $1 million for a ladder truck today. And so, and I say this for the benefit of the town, because if you're going to fund a capital budget, right now in the town of Mechanic Falls, this is always a question I ask myself. What is a mill of spending? What does a mill equate to? Well, in this current year, setting aside, we'll just round the number, $160,000 equals a mill. So if you're spending a few $100,000 in capital each year, and all of it with surplus dollars, and all of a sudden those surplus dollars aren't there one year, and you still want to fund your capital budget, you're probably looking at again, just spitballing here, but an instant mill rate increase of probably at least $1 to $2 because of that. It's great that the town has the surplus dollars to use, but I just fear down the road if the town either for a year or a number of years doesn't have that surplus. And remember how the surplus is created year to year. A surplus is created by and large by a combination of what these folks here don't spend in their budgets, that they turn in at the end of the year, if you will, combined with any excess revenues beyond forecasting. So a combination of those numbers, and sometimes some smoke and mirror accounting work and also play in that a little bit. But if I had any real serious thing to say to the town, it would be to, over these next several years, little by little, add the capital budget onto the taxpayer, because that's where it should be, honestly. And then take your excess revenues, your surpluses, and really use them for those really important big ticket items. Like Scott, I got a $174,000 bid, one of those two numbers, to do a top coat on the roads that were done last year. damn, wouldn't I like for you guys to do that? Because that's exactly what you should do. It's exactly what you should do. Because it will make that road last almost twice as long as it's going to currently last. And for the benefit of the town, that makes damn good sense. But obviously, in the end, this is up for you all to decide and the citizens of Mechanic Falls and when they turn out to vote. But I am moving forward. I didn't this year because remember, if anything, the capital budget took a $50,000 hit because of surplus was down $50,000 in effect. So we're just lowering that number. We have the safety net of ARPA dollars, which will offset like one of the I had a lot of them do wish lists, and on Norm's wish list, potentially using ARPA dollars is his extra bin or hot topping the area up there. I mean, there are a lot of places you can spend that sort of money, but you know, for this year, these numbers are what they are. You guys can feel free to adjust as you wish, but I'm just talking about moving forward. Next year, when I bring you a budget next year, it will put a little bit more onto the taxpayer. And you guys can say, Vic, no, or whatever, but I think strategically, it's what makes the best sense for the town.
Question, Dick?
Sure.
On this Androscoggin thing, it says that the state has the town's valuation at something like what, 207,500,000. Okay. What was our evaluation last year?
So our valuation, there's different valuation numbers. There's the state valuation, what the state says that you're at.
Mhm.
And then there's the on the ground, what we say we're at.
I guess where I'm going is, how much have we increased in value from one year to the next? How much more
Great.
revenue have we collected from our taxpayers?
You're chasing the right rabbit there. And so, because it does matter. So I had Alan pull information, and if memory serves me correct, $5 million came up. It was a rough number of 5 million. But in talking with Dennis from O'Donnell's, you can't use that straight number because it's when projects end that don't begin. And so there's a lag effect. So let's say for conservative sake, let's say it's, I don't know, I'll say 4 million just for conversation. So that means that the town valuation will go from just under 160 million to 164 million. We'll see in a few months. We don't know. We won't know until the assessors get done doing the assessing.
And how much revenue will that generate for the town?
Well, so
Where I'm kind of going with this a little bit is, we have inflation. We have a lot of seniors in Mechanic Falls. And, we get to be careful on their tax bill.
yeah, no, absolutely.
But, how I've always been more businesses, better tax revenue, let them, absorb some of the taxes for us. And I know that that's difficult. That's why I asked Alan,
Yeah, so
So-
obviously the higher the town's valuation, assuming everything else stays the same, spending and all the other variables, yes, it will greatly help the town. It will help the taxpayer. So how much revenue it generates, I'd have to sit down with a little piece of paper and do some
no,
calculations on
but,
that.
I just, so if we can generate enough valuation and the tax rate, that will make up for all the increases and hopefully,
Yeah, so like a year from now, right now, I'm saying rough number, $160,000 equals $1 million spending. So if we're right, let's say about the 4 million, we're sitting here next year at this time, we'll say a mill of spending is $164,000. Because that's where the mill comes from. It's 1,000th.
Mhm.
Okay. And
Well,
so,
I guess I'm just trying to look at senior citizens
Right.
and people that are having a difficult time with the inflation.
yes. And again, so I would love to sit here tonight and have everybody put that extra 50,000 back in capital that we cut.
Mhm. And I know capital is very important.
But I do feel that this is an exceptional year because of ARPA. We're still going to be able to make some capital moves. Be it the streetlight thing, be it some of the wish list stuff. I mean, there's going to be some decisions down the road you guys are going to make in terms of that spending. And that will obviously go to benefit the town, however you decide to do it.
Because I know that we need equipment to do the job, and old equipment breaks down, right? Oh, okay, all equipment has can break down. And I know that it's extremely expensive to buy, and I know that it's important that we set aside money for the equipment. And I'm just trying to find a balance there as to what taxpayers can afford and how we can
Right.
continue to do the things that we need to do.
So what I'll do is I'll tick down through this list. You guys probably have already looked at it. We'll just tick right down through it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask any of us. So we budgeted 25,000 for the complex building, for the reserve kitty to either fix up this building or get a head start on whatever you guys decide to do down the road, which is 5,000 less than the current year. The 10,000 on assessing, somebody talked about revaluation. Currently set aside in the reserve, we have a little bit better than 130,000. To do the reval is going to be 150,000. So this year we have set aside 10. Next year we'll set aside 10, and we'll be where we need to be. Nothing for codification this year. Computer reserve. We put in 5,000 for computers. The computer behind Paula is running Windows 7. The good news is that more computers are fairly well up to speed than what I would have thought. So we're not as bad as I thought, but we still need some computers. Jeff does. He really needs some computers. And Scott, he's probably running something from the Stone Age.
Windows 7.
Yeah. So library computers, 300 for that. Library office equipment, 250. Recreation, 12,000. So the recreation budget was not part of the operational budget for the current year. And so basically we decided to fund the recreation committee based on the same number that in the current year. I mean, you guys can do whatever you want, but so there's 12,000 set aside for the rec committee. And they have currently a reserve account of balance of, I believe, over $18,000. And so with this 12, they would have 30,000 set aside.
We never see a budget from them. We
Yeah,
never
so-
see the breakdown.
So this is going to be one of the great internal debates moving forward. And I am waiting for our new auditor to throw their weight into the conversation. It's always difficult with budget committees because you're dealing with sincere, passionate people who love what they do and do good things for the town. They're not here every day. They're out running businesses. They're doing different things, and yet they make it happen for the town. The difficulty becomes in the minutia behind the scenes. And so when our new auditor a year from now does their work, I will rely heavily on what the new auditor has to say concerning how the budget should be run for the recreational department. I have my opinions. I'm not going to say anything about it tonight. I'm just going to let the auditor speak, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to meet with the auditor, And that was one of my issues. The Rec department does a great job. It's just when they get involved with town money, we should see where it's going and have a breakdown. And
I always thought that they were supposed to be fully self-supporting. I didn't realize we gave this much.
So again, I'm the new kid on the block. I'm just learning. And so I just went into building this particular budget. I just went with the norm of the current year. Moving forward, again, I really, because it's going to be a tough conversation one way or another. And we don't have to have that conversation tonight. And that's why I'd like a third party, like the new auditor, to kind of weigh in. And so we'll cross that bridge another day. Okay.
Okay.
Fire rescue, 89,000 set aside, which is 11.2 less than last year. Or the current year, I should say. Fire packs, 20,000, air packs, I should say. Police cruiser. So Jeff and I have this idea. He's got money for a cruiser now. And our goal is to set aside what I call half a cruiser a year. So we set aside over the course of 2 years, he gets another cruiser. And Jeff can speak differently to that, but based on our conversations, I believe that that will accommodate. And if we find that we have a lot of staff really quick and need another PD cruiser, on top of all of this, there are ARPA dollars available to use for that.
What happens to the old cruisers once they're turned in?
Generally, we trade them in and we don't get, they aren't worth much money,
How much do you get for them?
around $2,500.
Really? My next question would be, could a town official probably use that vehicle for 4 or 5 years instead of using their own personal vehicle?
Yeah, so that's been asked in a lot of communities, and a lot of communities do it a lot of different ways. And so,
Yeah.
so I think you could make a case for either side, because if you,
I'm just saying, because, we have the CEO is using his personal vehicle.
right?
And if we strip down the cruiser, he could probably use a cruiser in all these years.
Yes, but you got to, here's the acid question and all that. The big variable is that cruiser going to need repairs? You got to insure it, you got to put gas in it, you got to maintain it, you got to fix all the repairs, you got to put tires on it. It's probably in the end just cheaper to pay him his mileage. Just one man's humble opinion, but communities have done it different, both ways. So it's up to you guys. It's not up to me, it's up to you.
I think he'd love to ride around in a Ram pickup.
The Ram pickup, my personal vehicle.
Ain't touching that. Public Works equipment, 80,000, which is down 10,800. Again,
I have
to
a question about that one.
Yeah.
With all that he told us tonight with equipment breakdown and stuff, is it wise for us to do that at this point?
we're okay for now. Again, if I don't want to come to you next year with another 50,000 deficit on the capital budget, because you're right. The equipment that's out to bid now and will be out to bid soon, we have budget for in reserves. So we're okay. We're okay for the asset purchases coming your way soon. But in the bigger picture, we got to start rebuilding those reserves for the next cycle.
And have we figured in the amount of money that we're going to need for the repairs to keep those vehicles going until we get the new vehicles?
So those repair numbers would be in his operating budget. And as long as he's comfortable with those numbers, that's in the operating budget, I'll defer to Scott on that.
Are you comfortable with what you?
We're making it. All I can tell you, we're making it. Hopefully not now, break for a while.
And that's why I was asking that question. if something major breaks tomorrow, are you up a creek without a paddle? Base.
I got both paddles.
So the next one's a brand new line item. Scott and I feel is important for the town to begin setting aside monies for crack sealing. And crack sealing is I don't know, you want to talk about it, Scott?
Crack sealing seals the road. When you see crack after you pave the road, you get down the road, you cracks, water gets down in there, and then the road freezes, and it just makes more cracks, and next thing you know, your whole road's falling apart, you gotta buy patch it. Crack sealing is a good way to make your roads last longer. Just like putting that top coat on those three roads out in the country there, that's gonna make those roads last a lot longer. I know it's a lot of money, but you wanna catch up with your roads someday, which we're never gonna do the way we're doing it. You gotta start doing things different.
Now, again, you guys, just to give you a comparison, and you don't have nearly the amount of miles of local roads that the town of Paris has. You guys take out a bond for 500,000 every 5 years. The town of Paris commits at least $500,000 per year for roads. One year while I was town manager, between that and surplus dollars, it was over $900,000 for a year's worth of road work. But again, they have more mileage too.
Scott, is that something that you will do yourselves as a crew, or is it something that you'll
No, you'll
bid out?
Job it out. There's people that come right in and do it for you. So much a foot.
Next item, transfer station equipment, $5,000, same as current year, and landfill closure. This is a storyline I need to chase at some point in time. Norm and I need to figure out if and when the current landfill, what the situation is, closure. So we're setting aside monies. You guys have been setting aside monies. We'll continue to set aside monies. I can't speak intelligently on the conversation this evening, other than I know it's coming for you, and so you should do this.
What is the current end cycle for the land dump at the present moment?
That's right. That's what we got to figure out, or I got to figure out.
Well, there was at some point, it was like 8 to 10 years down the road.
Right.
And this is a capping fund, cap the top of that.
I believe that to be true.
And do we have money set aside in that fund?
We have some money set aside in the landfill closure fund. Yes. Did I bring that with me? No, I didn't bring that sheet with me. Well, you have,
In the current year budget, we set aside 10,000 for the landfill closure, and this 10,000 here would make it 20,000. I do not have the exact date when or how long it's going to be before we need to cap what we have out there now. I just know that Zach started this last year with the 10,000. So with this 10,000, we'll have 20,000. I have
personally, no. And it's one of the things I want to meet with Norm about. Last week, I got an email from the DEP sending us some forms and some information on landfill closures. The only piece of information I found was just some little cryptic note. I don't even have it anymore, honestly, but I believe it said 2025. I don't know what that means. But again, it's a storyline I need to chase. Haven't chased it yet. We'll chase it with Norm, and we'll be ready for game day. We're just not ready today.
Yeah, I thought we had started this fund some years ago. No? Was it named something else?
have a solid race reserve, but to my knowledge, that money was always set aside for things like repairs or replacement of the compactor or some of the big cans up there.
Thank you, Lisa.
Any other questions on capital? All right, the last page, again, it speaks for itself. It's the county tax. Got to pay it. So that concludes the proposed fiscal year 23 budget. Would assume you guys want to meet again on March 2nd. And my question for you between now and then is going to be, we're going to be prepared for you guys to vote out the budget on March 2nd if you choose to. If you choose not to, then we can have whatever discussions you would like to have. And again, unless expressly stated or asked between now and then, the department heads will not be here. And it'll be between Lisa and I and the council and the budget committee. We'll figure it out from there. Does anybody have any questions or anything at this point? Okay, all right. So we'll just adjourn the meeting until March 2nd, and thank you for attending.
Andrea just forgot that tonight was the meeting. Would expect her to be at the next one.
She put it on her calendar while we were on the phone tonight, so.
You should be back. So in a perfect world, there'll be at least 4 people here. And I'm hoping. So we don't have to decide the great debate. If there's 4, it's moot, right?
It just, when it goes to ballot, it will just read the council recommends and the budget committee doesn't. That'll be
The only time I saw anything different was if there was a different number, right?
If there was a difference between the two
Right.
committees, whether we recommended it or not. they
Yeah.
voted to-
Yeah.
But if we don't have a form, we can't recommend
You mean them?
that, yes.
Yeah. So hope,
3 or 4 people show up, then you will be able to make a recommendation.
Oh, we'll be able to do everything.
Yeah.
I'd like Chief Goss to be at the next meeting.
you do understand he's packing.
And he has a big.
They've been trying to solve that problem, so maybe that's a good thing.
Did Janice leave?
One of the-
Make sure you grab her.
Yes, thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You get money.